Hello again, Blue Devils. Jason and Jen back with you one more time for our fifth installment of our financial learning series regarding school district finance. We're glad to have you back with us once again, and today we're going to shift gears a little bit to talk about our district properties. Really important to understand that the district owns three properties: our current PK12 campus, our central property, as well as the Hilltop Athletic Complex. One of the frequently asked questions that we receive is, does the school district own the stadium? And it's important to know that the school district does not own the stadium. It is owned by the city of Reading. And we do have a lease agreement with the city to utilize that property for our athletic teams, and we have a great partnership with the city to be able to do that. But let's talk a little bit about our first property, the PK12 campus. And one of the other questions that's been asked of us is about the efficiencies of being able to move from three aging buildings to one current new building. So Jen, can you talk a little bit about how those efficiencies can happen here on a PK12 campus?
So by having only one campus and our campus being newer, we've moved away from large capital outlay of fixing things from our aging buildings to more of a preventive maintenance program.
We've really spent some time over the last year to develop that preventive maintenance program with our provider, Omnia 360. We do have a budget for that, and it's really important that we understand that keeping our building in good shape and doing that preventive maintenance will help us in the long term with efficiently using our funds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Let's shift over to central property. Again, it's probably also important to go back to a previous episode and really revisit the fact that central property has been approved by the Board of Education to be retained as a district property. However, there are not specific reasons or uses planned for that property into the future. Can you talk a little bit about central property itself? And one of the frequently asked questions we also hear is about what happens if we have the sale of that property. Again, it is a district property, but the what if it was sold, what would that mean for us?
So if the central property was sold, the proceeds from that sale could not be used for operating expenses. So per the ORC code, we would have to use the proceeds from that sale for maintenance. So for district maintenance facilities, not for operating expenses.
So once again, just to reiterate, the board has taken action to maintain that as a property. It's not being considered as an item for sale.
No.
However, if the board were to change their mind in the future, the sale of that property could not be used for our general operating expenses like salaries and benefits and lights and those kinds of things, correct?
No.
Okay. The last property to talk a little bit about is the Hilltop Athletic Complex. I know that our community has seen the great baseball, softball field that's been constructed during the last several months. We're looking forward to having access to that. Let's talk a little bit about what the Hilltop property and how that came about. Can you kind of speak to, this is a little bit of a history lesson, but can you speak back to how this came about in the first place?
So in 2012, the district applied for and received a certificate of participation.
So just kind of for clarification, a certificate of participation is essentially a loan, right?
It's a loan, correct?
Okay, great.
So the district received this loan, and the loan was taken for capital improvements, primarily on the Hilltop property, but could be used for district-wide properties as well.
So that was almost 10 years ago, and I think it's probably good to mention or re-mention again that around that same time, the district became eligible for Ohio School Facilities Commission, or OFCC, funding to help build new facilities. Is that right?
That's correct.
So again, a little bit of a history lesson. Going back to 2015, there was an approved bond issue to allow for us to build this new PK12 campus. But what happened then with that certificate of participation of that loan is that there was some money left over. Is that right?
That's correct. There was a balance that was left over.
Well, then the next phase of that, once we had the new PK12 campus, is we still had those funds that were required to be used for improvements, correct?
Correct.
So our Buildings and Grounds Committee really studied this issue and made a recommendation to the board to use these funds to again, provide new improvements to the property, which in this case was the baseball softball complex. The board approved that, and last year the construction came in on time, on budget, and we are looking forward to the opening of that complex. Let's talk a little bit about that loan, though, because we all understand that a loan does have to be paid back. Can you talk a little bit about how that happens?
That's correct. So the loan is paid back through the general fund. So the dollars that we pay to the debt service is paid from the general fund.
Okay, thank you. Well, we hope this is helpful in understanding our current district properties and how those are being funded and how they're used, and hopefully cleared up a few of the frequently asked questions we hear on a regular basis. Our last installment of our financial learning series upcoming will be some comparative data related to how we are utilizing our funds in comparison to our districts around the state that are similar, as well as some of our local districts that we might be a little more familiar with. We will do that in our next episode, and we once again thank you for listening today. We'll look forward to seeing you next time. Go Blue Devils!